Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of episode 1. It is episode number 6. I am Sergio, the sexy potato Barrera, and I am looking forward to once again sharing my thoughts on the first episode of a show. Of course, I am trying to get through as many shows as possible across all major streaming platforms to help you decide whether it's a show you would want to see. So if you're curious, just make sure you click that subscribe button here on the channel, and don't forget to click the notification bell so you know when future episodes land. Today, I am going to Apple TV Plus for today's choice, as we are going to take a look at a show that I've heard a lot about from a whole lot of folks, and really hadn't made time for it. And I believe it's like 3 or 4 seasons in now. And that show is called For All Mankind. For All Mankind, you can find it on Apple TV Plus, and it is an alternate history type show. And it actually falls right in my wheelhouse in terms of the topics and so forth, because I'm a big fan of the Apollo space program. And this is an alternate history show because what it portrays is the moon landing, the very first moon landing happening in June 1969. And the unique premise of the show is that the Russians made it first. And so For All Mankind is one of those shows that really is just a unique twist on a very historic event. And so as we go ahead and jump into this discussion for this show, For All Mankind is produced by David S. Goyer, who was also the brainchild behind one of my other favorite science fiction shows ever back in 2004, the reimagining of Battlestar Galactica. I grew up as a kid in the 80s watching Battlestar Galactica, the first iteration. So when 2004 rolled around and there was a reimagining of that title, it became one of my absolute favorite shows. So David S. Goyer has some chops when it comes to producing good television. So he is behind For All Mankind, and it's one of those shows that really captures the imagination, because it really puts you into a premise that is very, very unique. And that is once again, the fact that the Soviets were the first to reach the moon. Episode 1 is it does a lot of exposition to sort of set the tone. You almost have to know the history of the Apollo program, especially the moon landing and so forth that happened in 1969 that was done by the United States, in order to really have this show to have sort of a full impact on you. The main character in episode 1 is an astronaut by the name of Ed Baldwin, and the basic premise here is he is one of several astronauts that are portrayed within this first episode. And they're all going through some difficulty with the fact that the Soviets have won the race to the moon and have claimed a red moon. The flight director instructs the astronaut corps to go out, take a day off, be angry, and then get back and get ready to get back to work, and let's get that first moon landing completed. Well, one thing leads to another. They all go out to a bar, and as they're drinking, they're getting more and more upset and more worked up. And before you know it, Ed Baldwin has a conversation with a reporter where he expresses his opinions on why he believes the U.S. did not make it to the moon first. And he blames NASA and basically says they didn't have the courage and the what it took basically to take the risks necessary to achieve the moon landing first. Obviously, this gets him into a lot of trouble with the higher ups at NASA. And so he gets removed from the astronaut corps. He was actually part of Apollo 10 and was slated to be on Apollo 15 within the context of the storyline. And so he loses his spot. And he also loses the confidence of his fellow astronauts. So that right away, you start to know, okay, this is going to be a portion of the show. This is going to be the journey of Ed Baldwin to try to reclaim confidence from his colleagues and also be reinstituted into the astronaut corps. The last third or so of the episode is a dramatization of the actual U.S. moon landing, Apollo 11, Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and it's a pretty decent dramatization of the event. In fact, it compares very nicely to another series that actually dramatized the moon landing. It was episode 7 of a series called From the Earth to the Moon that was produced by HBO quite a while back, produced by Tom Hanks and a few others. Steven Spielberg was involved. And it was shortly after Apollo 13 and its popularity where that show was born. So you're looking at these events unfold in this episode of For All Mankind, and you're kind of thinking, wow, I've seen this. And okay, so we're spending quite a lot of time for a situation where the premise of the show is that the US didn't get there first. The lander approaches the moon, everything is going as it should, and then the twist comes. And the twist is that as soon as the lander makes contact with the moon, all contact is lost with NASA back home. And so several tension building minutes in the last portion of the episode build up the idea that not only have we not made it to the moon first, but now a crash has occurred, and it appears that the astronauts of Apollo 11 are lost. That is to say, until 4.5 hours later in the time of the show, the astronauts reestablished contact. And it turns out that Apollo 11 did indeed crash when it landed, and it's sitting precariously on the moon, but both astronauts are okay. And so episode 1 comes to a close with success in the sense that NASA has finally made it to the moon, but not everything is okay. And so you're kind of left wondering, okay, well, what next, right? There's also another thread, another storyline thread that is throughout episode 1, and it's a story of a family who is making their journey across Mexico, and you find out by the end of the episode that they are going to be illegally crossing into the United States. And so that's the storyline that doesn't quite get fleshed out in episode 1, but it's there, and it's obviously being set up for development in the future of the show. So the questions I always ask myself in episode 1 is, okay, what are the pros? The pros is it's a very unique twist on a very historical moment. So that's enough to pique my curiosity. The acting's great. The writing's great. The show itself is produced really nicely. The cons, though, is for all that happens within episode 1 of the show, you kind of walk away feeling like, well, not a lot happened. Maybe it's going to be second, third, fourth episode before I kind of feel like, okay, am I going to be really hooked into this? So then the last question I always ask is, well, would I continue this show? The answer for me personally is at this point, probably not. At least not right away. It didn't really do a lot to pique my curiosity for future episodes. And again, don't forget that my opinion on what makes a good show and an intriguing show is different from all of you. But if you were to ask me what I recommended, my answer would be like, there's other shows out there to spend your time on. At some point, maybe I'll come back and I'll circle back and check it out and see, what it's all about and what's all going on, because I understand for future seasons, they actually jump decades. And so it's covering a lot of ground pretty quickly, as far as time goes. So, For All Mankind, again, sweet premise. Episode 1 just didn't grab me, and it'll be a while before I get to episode 2. So if you watched For All Mankind and you enjoyed it or had the similar thoughts, then please comment and let me know what you thought. If you watched the show as a result of this review, I want to know your thoughts. What do you think about the show itself and all that it brings to the table? So I'd love to hear from you in the comments. All right, well, that's my look at For All Mankind. I appreciate you joining me here on episode 1. Don't forget, episodes will be coming fast and furious over the next few days, weeks, months, and so on. So make sure you click the subscription button. Also click that notification bell so you know when episodes land. All right. Well, I'll look forward to seeing you here the next time as we continue this journey together and looking at shows across all major platforms. But until then, don't forget, you're awesome, you're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it. I'll see you next time on episode 1.